Good morning. Well, again, it's morning here. Today I want to talk just for a short time about the idea of yin and yang, which is actually also pronounced yan. Before I do that, would you hit that subscribe button for me? It won't hurt you to do it. I appreciate it very much. Thank you. We live in a world of duality. Everything is a two-sided coin, one side, the other. It's one thing, but it has two different sides. And so that is true with pretty much everything in the world, the physical world. We have, up and down, black and white, in and out. There's always two sides. And we often talk about, and I've talked about, the fact that you always have choices, at least two. There's got to be at least two choices in whatever's going on. And, the world of good and bad, heaven and hell, all those things are duality. And they're all things that we understand. I think there's nobody that walks around going, what does that mean? We have two sides. And so when you think about the yin yang symbol, it's white on one side, black on the other, but each has, the black side has a little white dot and the white side has a little black dot. And as far as I can recall from looking into that years ago, those little dots that are the opposite color than the body of the swirl really represent that there's a seed of dark in every white and white in every dark, or light and dark, however you want to say it. So none of us is completely one thing or another. We all have seeds of each other. And spiritually, it's important to kind of recognize that that is physically true. Is that true in the spiritual world? Are there yin yang in the spiritual world? Is there this and that, you and me? That's a harder one to answer because, of course, right now, my awareness, my consciousness is in a physical being. And although I can reach into myself, I've learned how to kind of get to that level where my soul is. It's not an easy answer because soul generally is going to be alive in a person. Not that it's not alive outside of a person. But its actions it's learning from the person. So then we can expand the idea a little bit better and say, well, is the soul the good part and the body the bad part? Well, no, because they depend on each other, don't they? The body would really have nothing without the soul. I don't even know if we'd be alive because we believe that we die when the soul leaves our body, or do we believe the soul leaves our body when we die? It's one, that's two ways of saying the same thing. Do we need each other? Soul definitely is absolutely needed by the body, for sure, even if people aren't aware that they need their soul. The soul needs the body because this is the classroom. This is how I learn. As soul, I suppose if it was just a bunch of souls floating around, I don't know how much we would expand, how much we would learn, how much we would grow. So the body is definitely needs the soul. But then you have to think of it this way. Is there a separation? We know that the body dies and the soul is off doing whatever it does in between and then comes back to the body. But if you really, really, really stand far back, it's hard to imagine that all of that is one thing. And in some ways it actually is. It's all of us, body and soul, spirit, love, all of it is one thing. But within that one thing, there are other things going on, Kind of like our mind or our heart or our body or anything on the computer. Just because the computer's open right now doesn't mean that I'm using it, but it's there for me to use, and the information is there for me to get if I want it. It's just, it looks like nothing's going on over there at all, but in reality, that computer's waiting, like a body waiting for a soul to hop in, So when you think of duality, we think of two different things, two different ways. It's very, very difficult in the physical, and I would think impossible in the physical to do something just one way. We would all look the same. I don't even know if we'd be here if we could do it just one way. Soul could just be doing its thing, without us. And same thing with bodies. I mean, what would we be? Who would we be if we actually didn't have that spark of God that lives within us? If we didn't have a chosen destiny or added karma that we, have, that we're working toward, that sort of paints the picture of where we want to be, and then we have to figure out how to get there. What would we be if not that? So if people don't believe in soul and don't believe in God and don't believe in all of these spiritual type of things, they're not necessarily wrong, because their belief is a true belief. It's a thing. Just because I don't agree with that, then I'm the other side of the yin yang. You know what I mean? Like I might be the yin and they're the yang. So, there's two ways of looking at things, and lots more, if you trickle down a little bit, but basically there's two ways of looking at everything. And I don't know if most people even think about that kind of stuff, but we need each other. The yin and the yang aren't separate. People think of them as being two separate things. They're not. They need each other, and again, have a piece of each other always inside. And if this sounds kind of like, what is she talking about? What the heck is she trying to say? What I'm really, really trying to say is that spiritually, it is really necessary for us to have the ability, the option to decide one thing or another, go with the good or go with the bad kind of thing. And that's what draws us closer to whatever our destiny is. It's important to realize that even though we make bad choices sometimes, they really in the long run aren't bad choices, because they've given you a gift. There's two sides to the coin. People say, well, why do bad things happen? Bad things happen so we can learn from them. And sometimes the person who caused the bad things is the learner. Sometimes it's the people who observed it. Two ways to look at it. Being the one who did it, being the one who receives it. It's like the stories that I told you when I talked about perspective, and how I had these visions of the difference between being in a meadow looking up at a tall mountain pretty far away, or being on top of the mountain looking down at the meadow. They are a part of each other. They are opposite ends, and we wouldn't be able to see the uniqueness of the situation without the other one. If there was no mountain and I was in the meadow and everything was meadow, I mean, it would be beautiful. Grass, bees, flowers, ticks, all those kinds of things, but our perspective would be limited to grass. But when we have the opportunity to then see the mountain, we suddenly see a much larger world, a much more unique place. And we wonder, what would it be like to be up on that mountain? Same thing with the person on the mountain. If all there was a mountain, and the mountain wouldn't even be a mountain, because it would just be a high place that would be flat, I guess, because perspective would allow the mountain to go down, right? So if the only place you can stand is at the peak of the mountain or the flat place that's really tall, but there's nothing to look down on, you wouldn't even know what up and down was. There and here wouldn't make much sense at all. But then the meadow appears way down there, all green while I'm sitting in snow. And warmth and cold become a thing. Down and up become a thing. Here and there become a thing. And that's where we learn. Within that yin yang, that duality, the two sides of the coin, reap, sow, all those kinds of things, karma, all the things we talk about, heaven and hell. We learn within that very unique space that gives us two sides of every coin. So spiritually, we would never be able to expand. We would never be able to become our better selves, our greater selves, if we didn't have both sides. And in the long run, everything depends on that in this world. And since this is where we are, we have to kind of depend on it. I mean, I can go to my soul and sit with it for a little bit, but at some point the phone's going to ring, or I have to start work, or I got to cook dinner. Something's going to happen, where I have to kind of step away from the consciousness of soul and get back to the consciousness of Judy. Two ways to look at things. Two sides to a coin. So that's it. Nice and short and sweet. Hopefully I didn't confuse you at all. If you thought what I said was helpful, or you liked it, or you thought, well, I never thought of it that way, how about that little like button for me, okay? And in the meantime, of course, I will be back with another videos shortly. I don't have many. I think I've only got maybe 3, 4 tops. I don't have very many before I finish this whole series of Judy talking to a camera, explaining what she believes, and hopefully somebody gets something out of it. Anyway, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'm sure I will be back pretty soon. Not sure when. Might be today, might be tomorrow, but we'll see. Thanks for listening.